Hi, this is Chris Heller, Chief Real Estate Officer at Ojo Labs. And today, I always say I'm excited when I get to interview someone great, but today is a really special day. I'm going to get to interview my first coach, my first mentor, someone who probably had as big an impact in my life, professional life, as anyone that I've come across. So without any further ado, Mike Ferry, thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thanks for those nice words. You and I have been at this a long time, and we've had a lot of great relationships we've developed with people. And most importantly, it's been very productive for both of us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it has. It was 1991 when I first met you, and just made a huge impact on my business and how I operated, and still use things to this day, and still hear your voice in my head at different times with different things that are going on. So very impactful. Hey, Mike, as you know, we have a network of top agents from all over the country. Some of them are probably coaching clients of yours. And you've got to coach probably more agents for a longer period of time than anyone walking this planet. The market's always changing, but for the most part, would you say that what agents do to be successful is still pretty much the same, or do you see that evolving also?
That is, of course, the most common thing we hear today, Chris, is the word disruptors and what's disrupting the business. But I've always said, and there's no better example than for all of you folks to listen to Chris Heller. If you're talking to people on a regular basis and you're talking about what they need, want, and desire, which is buy and sell real estate, it's a pretty simple business. And I know that our industry naturally likes to complicate things because that's how we justify the work we do and the commissions we earn. Over here we have buyers, over here we have sellers. Our job is to get in the middle and talk to both parties, make something work. So yeah, there's a lot of, technology has been an advancement that is never ending positive. I've always said it's probably the best thing that ever happened. And on the days it isn't working, it's the worst thing that ever happened. Social media has allowed people that never had any opportunity to get exposure to people to get exposure. But it really comes down to the ability to have a conversation about what they want and what they want to accomplish. And if you keep doing that on a regular basis, like yourself, you're going to win big. You're as good as anybody that ever came across the real estate industry, Chris, as a salesperson. So, but hats off to you.
Well, thank you. I think the one of the things, I still have my team, and now I get to interact with 18,000 agents in our network. And one of the things that probably causes more frustration for me personally than anything else is watching agents make decisions about how long they should follow up with someone, or if they should follow up with someone.
Yes.
I think, and tell me, I learned from you early on, you follow up till they tell you to never call them again, or for sure they aren't going to do anything. Is that still the advice you give agents?
Well, I tell agents every day, Chris, that the more aggressive you become in your lead follow-up, the better chance you have, because I think you and I recognize that probably 75% of all contracts signed come from the lead follow-up stage of the sale process. Everybody thinks it's the conversation, the initial conversation that creates the lead, and that's true. But it's the follow-up once you get the lead, because as you know, if somebody gives you their name and phone number, they've probably given it to several other people also. So it's who is going to be, with a smile on their face and good questions to ask, the most aggressive person. I had a person say to me probably a couple of years ago now, "Oh, Mike, the client said to me, you're too aggressive." And he said, "I didn't know what to say." I said, "Well, why don't you call him back and say, I want to demonstrate to you what I'm going to do when I get your home listed for sale. You do want the most aggressive agent, don't you?" Well, he did it and got the listing. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I got a listing being aggressive." So, you're right. It's call them. And then when you're done calling them, call them again until they say don't call back, because their motivation or their desire to move has changed.
With agents that you're coaching today, is there any themes or any common threads as far as challenges that you're hearing, or that you're trying to get agents focused on?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, today, and Chris, you recognize this because of the size of the business you've always run in real estate. If we look back, say, to 2015, 16, let's say 20% of the sellers were selling based on greed and 80% selling based on the desire to move up, move down, move out, get a bigger, smaller place. Kids have grown up, they're having a family. Today, it looks like it's about 50-50. And that's the biggest challenge that good producers face is should they take on some of the listings? We're having more agents turn down listings today, especially the last 7-8 months, because this unfortunate pandemic has created a real estate market as we've never seen before. So with that being said, a lot of people are saying, I'm cashing in, but they're cashing in at prices that are unrealistic or attempting to. So, we're seeing the number of expireds, increase, which is taking place in the marketplace today. But more importantly, agents are walking away from listings, which you and I, by nature, we go, oh, you walked away from a good listing. Well, you have to walk away from a listing that's worth $750 and they want $1.4 million, because the odds are so much against you. So I think the biggest thing I'm seeing is agents walking away more. The second thing is the fact that the agents have to be much more adept at market stats. They have to sit down with that seller and really understand what the play is in the market, because, the days on market is a critical factor today. Obviously, the amount of offers that are coming in, and that's all changed in the last 60, 90 days. Days on market is increasing nationwide. Number of offers is decreasing nationwide per transaction. Prices are beginning to flatten out a little bit. So, the agent that's really paying attention to what goes in the market is going to win a major portion of the time.
Yeah. And Mike, and almost all that applies to buyers also, right? Being educated in the market so you can really have an impactful and educational type conversation or consultation with a buyer. Mike, I want to ask you a question, and I'm very curious about your response. So way back before the internet, when you were teaching a lot of us young agents at the time, when we got a call or a lead from a buyer, it was qualify, and make sure they're qualified before you show them any homes. Consumer behaviors change, consumer expectations have changed, the dynamics have changed a bit. Today, in 2021, when you meet a buyer and one of your agents meets a buyer and they're making the decision, okay, should I meet them and show them the house they want to see, or should I make sure they talk to my lender first? Is it still the same, or what do you tell agents now about the best way to interact with a consumer?
Well, I think there's many answers. First of all, it's a great question. Thank you. There's many answers to that question, and it starts with the motivation of the agent because, I made a comment a couple of years ago, and I got my normal, oh, that's a great idea to who's allowed this guy to ever speak to real estate people? Because, we've worked together long enough to know I get both responses. And I said, it's almost like when you get your license today, you should have to declare, I'm going to work with buyers or I'm going to work with sellers, because the process is so totally different. Now, if you're a listing agent, you're going to be much more selective as to what buyers you're going to show. I mean, you're going to reduce the number down dramatically. And then you're going to turn it over to one of your teammates or to a good referral agent, and you're going to collect a referral fee and everybody's going to be happy. But you got to make that decision. What are you going to do on that first meeting? Well, whether you're a new agent or a veteran or a superstar, if you follow the process, your chances increase. It's not following the process where you get in trouble. Okay. I always use the example of a pro football, baseball, basketball team. If they follow the instructions of the coach, their chances for winning improve. If they don't follow the instructions, they're probably not going to be on the team too long.
Yeah, it's really just a process of asking questions, which it seems like agents still struggle with that. They still struggle with just asking questions, not prying or interrogating, but just asking the logical questions that would allow you to know how to best help that consumer. Do you see that also?
Chris, probably from 2016 through the pandemic, I would commonly, in a program I was speaking before, I would ask the audience, how many of you have a direct sales background? Sometimes it'd be 3 out of 500 have a direct sales background. And then I would, of course, have to put the hammer down and say, we're in the direct sales business. And in direct sales, if you're not asking questions, all you're doing is having a wasted conversation, in most cases with somebody that will never do anything with you. And I get a lot of blank stares because so few people understand that selling is nothing more than asking questions. And confrontation is asking questions. As you said so well, it's not interrogation. It's not, hey, what's going on? It's, what are we looking for? What can we accomplish? What would you like to do? When would you like to do it? So I agree with you 100%. They've got to ask questions to lead the conversation to a finality, which is good for the buyer, the seller, and the agent.
Do you think it's that that agents don't know what to ask, or they're not even thinking about it, or they're afraid? Where's the disconnect?
But I think the biggest thing is, the industry, and it's a phenomenal industry. There's no question about it. I mean, it's made so many people so much money and gave so many people a great lifestyle, this industry of selling real estate. But the industry doesn't teach sales that you and I know to be the sales process. And I ask brokers why all the time. Why would you be afraid to say, learn this script? And they say, well, if they get mad, they quit. I said, so you'd rather have somebody that doesn't know how to sell on your team than have to find somebody that you could teach how to sell. And that, of course, usually brings a little bit of love-hate relationship to our conversation. But, it's just not taught.
It is. And there's so much has changed. So much has changed in the world. But there's also a lot that has stayed the same. When I'll ask you this because it's a question I get asked sometimes. I want to hear your answer. The advice that you would give to a new agent 20 years ago versus the advice you'd give to a new agent now, has it changed? Is it different?
The only thing we'd say to the agent today differently, we've always said, start building a database, start previewing property to get to understand values and what's for sale. Then go ahead and start using a social media platform you're comfortable with, because it's not as much pressure as picking up the phone and talking to people. So the only thing, the conversation's the same. It's just the social media now is at the forefront of a lot of the conversations for newer agents. So we say, take your database and, create it, put it inside your Facebook group and keep them aware of not where you're going to dinner, what activities you're involved in and what you're doing to get a home sold and the listings that you're taking.
We're starting to see the market shift, that's starting to lose a little steam. Well, that'll cause, more properties come on the market, some prices to soften, more balance between supply and demand. We've been in the same market for 8 or 9 years in most parts of the country. And so that means a lot of agents have never experienced a different market. So if you're talking to that group of agents, what advice would you give them?
Well, what's interesting about what you said, Chris, and I don't have any way to verify this. I've been told that over the last 6 months, NAR has added an enormous number of new licensees to the pool. We've gone from like 1.2 to 1.3 to 1.5 to 1.6 million agents. And, they're not leaving as fast as they're coming in, which really does, it isn't a helpful thing for all your good clients. They're part of OJO because, those people can often find one transaction. And if you get 200,000 people finding one transaction, it takes a lot from the pool. But what we're telling agents today is, okay, that market stats that I mentioned a minute ago is going to reveal to you as an agent what's going on in your market. And if you came into the market, say in 2015, because if you and I went through, we've been through many depressions and recessions in real estate in our careers. There's been some big ones, no better example than 2008 to 2012. But 2012 forward, what happened in the market is there was this backlog of buyers from that 4 years. So the surge into the market, 12, 13, 14, 15 was enormous. Prices inflated, prices came back. Agents were in their glory. Everybody was a genius. We had superstars that couldn't spell their name that could sell, 12 homes a year. And it was an interesting time. 16 to 19, it started to, it was still climbing, but was leveling out. Then in 19, we had a little glitch in the market, had a little glitch again, obviously in 20, March, April, and May. So what I'm telling agents today is you got to know the market stats. You got to watch for any trends. And if you started in 2015, for goodness sakes, quit patting yourself on the back. You're dislocating your own shoulder, patting yourself on the back, because This was a market-driven economy in real estate for the last couple of years. So now you got to go back and you got to make sure that you've sourced all your business. Where did it come from? Okay, I got 5 great transactions through Chris's company. I got 9 transactions from my database. I had, a couple of walk-ins to my open houses. Source your business. Which of those sources are duplicatable, and then work those a lot. Then at the same time, have you been really working your database? Because when the market's going like this, we have a tendency to abuse our database, and the database is the foundation. So we're telling people that today.
All right, and that's great advice. I hope everyone listens carefully and watches this more than once. We're running short on time, so I'm going to ask you another question that I've been looking forward to get to ask you this, and that is when I started and when you were teaching back then, there was a strong emphasis on having a plan, having a schedule, and then following that schedule and accomplishing those goals. And that was something that I could do. I didn't have to be smart, didn't have to be charismatic. I could create that discipline to do that. Is that equally important today as it was back then?
I think it's more important, Chris, because the amount of competitors in the market has grown, and the number of brokerages are doing more smart things like you guys are doing, which is feeding leads to people. So, your schedule, your business plan, whatever that may be, and however you put it together becomes the foundation. We had a guy that you remember years ago, Steve Shull, that worked for us and was a very successful coach for us, and has continued his career since he left my company. But he was a pro football player for the Dolphins. And I remember sitting with Steve one day and saying, what was it like, the schedule? He said, they broke it down to the minute. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. Every minute of the day, there was something we were actively involved in to improve the quality of the work we do. Well, that was the philosophy that you and I grew up with.
We'll keep beating that drum to get agents to make sure they have a schedule, they follow it, and they can accomplish more when they do. Mike, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Agents, if you want to check out MikeFerry.com, is there any other place that they should go to find you?
I don't even know what the office phone number is because I never call the office. So I'm the most informed, uninformed person owning a substantial company. But MikeFerry.com, we have a lot of activity on our website all the time, and it's a good website. It's not complicated, and it takes an agent to the things you and I are trying to get across. So,
and there's a lot of great resources on the website too. And I don't know, who knows how many people I've sent there. Because this isn't a complicated business. Agents tend to overcomplicate it. What you teach is keeping it simple and just the real basic things that agents need to do to be successful. I've always appreciated that.
Well, the only really good news about what we're doing today, and I think this is becoming more common, we are doing live events in September, October, November, December, January. They're all set scheduled. We're selling those. And it's been 18 months since we did any. We did our superstar retreat in July. Instead of having 4,000 to 5,000 people, the hotel limited us to 2,500. We sold it out quickly. So, the need for training that you offer, which is great through all the speakers you have, and the training that the various speakers offer is vital today. So go to the website or go to somebody's website and get more involved in the training.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you again. I hope all the agents listen very carefully to all of this and watch it a few times.
Thank you, Chris. It's nice to see you, and I'm glad we get to work together. Thank you.